You are still watching the Morning Call here on Africanews. In our second leading story, we head to Cameroon, where the National Assembly has adopted a draft law on decentralization. This grants special status to the country's two English-speaking regions, where a deadly conflict between the army and separatists has been going on for more than 2 years. If the law is approved by the Senate, the Northwest and the Southwest regions will have a degree of autonomy and will be allowed to develop public policies in the areas of education and justice. This special status is the main recommendation made during a grand national dialogue held in October to propose solutions to the crisis that has ravaged the Central African nation since 2016, Ruth.
For more on this, politician Anicet Ekane joins us from Yaoundé in Cameroon. Hello and thanks for joining us. Now, this bill on decentralization has been adopted into law with no change to Article 246. Was this enactment premeditated in your opinion? Yes, I would like to say that I believe that the government has taken the opportunity to pass the law for decentralized local authorities as a result of the major dialogue. One can quickly come to the conclusion that this law, at least for most of the part, was certainly ready before the dialogue. It's perhaps due to the fact that the Article 246, which addresses community problems, has prompted many reactions, and that we have the impression that this text has just been drafted. It's clear that a draft that was already prepared was part of the decentralization measures. I must say that for the overwhelming majority of the provisions in this bill, the government is simply consolidating what was done before, including the problem of native people and the election of mayors, which is restricted. I think that the former government delegates, their appointment was based on the same principle. Today, since they're elected, that may be a problem.
Now, Mr. Ekane, the law enshrines one of the key resolutions made at the Grand National Dialogue held at the beginning of October. So do you think that this is the kind of move that can push the country towards reconciliation?
On reflection, it's a good government initiative to have implemented the adoption of the special status. From our position as the patriotic nationalist movement, petitioning the country was out of the question. The demands of the English-speaking area are socially the same as all the other areas. There is a political and historical specificity that makes them more acute and more divisive. But in reality, this desire, this willingness to manage the affairs of the regions autonomously is present throughout the country. It is more pronounced, as I say, in this English-speaking area. So I think it's a good initiative. It's an appropriate test for the current context to relax the situation a little and avoid the pretext of autonomy giving the opportunity to possible secessionists supported by Cameroon's enemies, who we dare not portray as friends of the international community.
Mr.
Ekane, this article on nativity, which requires mayors to be natives of the region, continues to be divisive. What's your opinion on this issue? I still notice that those who take the lead, who are offended by the removal of the term indigenous, are the same people who are always quick to point out when there are appointments of government ministers and governors, etc. They start making demands with regard to their own region. I'm very annoyed when politicians with a national dimension dare to take the so-called indigenous approach, defending their own community. That's a problem when you run a country. I think we should see the integration of the country as a process, and that fairness, justice would require that we put a special emphasis on preserving community balances in a country like ours and the disqualification of certain communities because we are not very representative demographically and it's conflicting. A balance must be struck between the legitimate objective of integration and the protection of communities that are victims of the rural exodus, which is essential to the creation of an integrated nation.
Et la protection des communautés victimes de l'exode rural qui est indispensable dans la construction d'une nation intégrée.
En tout cas, merci à vous,
Thank you, Mr. Anicet Ekane, for speaking to us. The bill has yet to be examined by the Senate prior to its adoption.
Sa promulgation. Le Morning Call se poursuit avec le Still to Come de Nia Chaké.
Merci, Ruth, and a very big thank you to our expert there, Mr. Ekane. You're still watching the Morning Call here on Africa News. Remember, you can get these and many more stories here on Africa News TV, as well as on our website, africanews.com. Still to come in the program. Organizers of the 2020 Tokyo Olympics have unveiled the marathon course in the city of Sapporo. Last month, organizers moved the marathon venue from Tokyo, which is the capital, to avoid intense heat. Plus, more than 150 international brands, 5,000 architects, business developers, and key decision makers took part in the leisure fair in Dubai. Among the attendees, Africa News journalist Hawa Suleimana Brahima, who is there to test the latest in fitness and sporting equipment. And we continue to traverse the sporting world when Brice Kenwu joins us on the platform after this short break.